And we're currently live. Welcome, everyone who is part of the stream and the one or two of you that will be viewing. Um, Here with Patrick, Mary, and Haas. And this week we're going to be discussing when evil lurks. Um, a Shudder original / IFC Midnight uh, movie from Argentina. I guess it was a co-production with the U.S., but I don't really know what that co-production entailed.
Maybe they provided the vehicles. I was I was checking out the trucks. They're going like there's a Ford truck and a Chrysler Tram. I was like, damn, this is pretty good. I didn't know they had those things in Argentina.
Yeah, they have. I mean, America, we export cars.
Yeah, it was just strange to see in Argentina.
I don't think I've seen that many Argentinian films, to be honest with you.
Only seen three of myself. This is my fourth one.
Was it your favorite of the four?
No, Luciferino is my favorite.
Mm.
But I will put this. I will put this a second.
Okay.
I thought it was like I said. I really like this, but I have thoughts about it. I was sitting there, and going like, this is not what I expected, and it's like wrestle around with it. But I did like it though.
What did you think, Hoss?
I really enjoyed it. Typically, I don't seek out, I guess, movies that either are in another language have subtitles. Not necessarily because I don't normally seek them out, but I'd heard so much good things about this one. I was like, I want to check it out. And really, it didn't bother me at all. Like the way the story flowed and everything, it wasn't distracting at all. Or, I think they did everything up right.
Was this your first viewing of it?
This time was the second viewing, but I had purchased it like sight unseen, the first time. So I was like, because I just heard so many good things about it, I was like, oh, I'm gonna give it a shot.
It definitely got a good amount of hype. It was very well received critically.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's definitely, there's some hard parts to watch, but yeah, it's very entertaining.
A lot of good practical effects on this one too.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
That's my first time watch.
What did you think, Mary?
That's pretty awesome.
Spoken like a true IFC midnighter.
I loved it. I mean, the music's good, the scenery, the acting. It's intense.
Mhm.
They acted pretty well.
Yeah, it's a very solid film, I think. Very well made. Sort of unflinching, straight up, serious tale told. No comic relief needed in this one or anything like that. So let's just get right on into it. We start with two brothers, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pedro and Jamie, and they are at home and they hear gunshots off in the distance and surmise that it's not hunters because it was a pistol. So they go out to investigate, and what they find is a bisected man. Just this corpse of the dude that's been cut in half with some curious equipment, and that's where we start. Did you guys have any thoughts with this sort of opening part or introduction of the characters and their sort of conversation around this half person?
Well, anybody else want to go first?
Well, I was going to say, to me, like with this movie, a sense of dread just sets in like from the get go, and that's what to me pulls you in, and you're like, what's going on here, and you're, as they're finding out, like you said, that's pretty unsettling to find just a half of a body. Now, of course, we don't know that there's, I guess, kind of that this is something that's been going on for a while. I'm guessing is what I got as the movie went along, but yeah, it was just just having that sense of dread sets with you and just doesn't let up.
They were pretty nonchalant at fighting like a person who's been chopped in half, right?
Yeah.
Like they were
Whoops.
not stoked on it, but they were also not like completely freaked out. Like I'd be pretty freaked out personally, but
that was like the first clue, and also the first positive thing I really liked about that too was the age of the actors. They're two guys, probably early 40s, mid 40s, and it instantly puts you in it's not kids, so it's, which I really appreciate, because these guys it gives it a sense of realism. And and I did pick up that too. The first thing I picked up too was their reactions were not what you would expect to be, for something like that. And I was just like, I when I saw that, I'm like, that's interesting. That's an interesting reaction.
I mean, they were sort of like on a farm, really. So, like, I guess farmers are built a little different. They're more used to seeing, like, I don't know, life and death in other terms than us urban dwellers. So maybe part of that played a role. But yeah, they were both pretty hardened to that whole thing.
They're already blaming Ruiz or something, weren't they? Like, this guy, he must have done it.
Well, I guess it was his land, right, that they found it on.
Yeah.
Right.
So like they were, having that dialogue. Well, should we, tell him or what? What should we do about this? And they also seemed like when they introduced him as a character, it didn't seem like they were good buddies or anything. It seemed like some historical static between them or something,
Probably land feuds and stuff like that.
Yeah, they weren't really clear what it was, but there was definitely something. But they basically do some sleuthing and end up at a shack and discover that there is a rotten within their grasps. And
this guy had Maria's paperwork on him, the lady that their house they're going to or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and when they arrive, they find out he was a cleaner. I think that's what they're called, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was basically sent there to kill her son, who had who was possessed, and as they call, a rotten. And he was pretty rotten. What did you guys think when we're first introduced to this scene here within the bedroom?
Yeah, I was thinking, he's pretty much rotten.
That's pretty
I think
gross.
it reminded me of Left 4 Dead had the bloaters, I think is what they called them. There was one that was like real, distended and stuff like that. That's what it reminded me of. It's very gross, yeah.
Yeah, and you could almost smell it, how bad it looked.
Yeah, he had like a lot of fluids and discharge about him. It was fairly unnerving. I think rotten was a pretty good descriptor for him. He looked like he was basically sitting there rotting.
Yeah,
every inch of
it sort of reminded me of a sloth from Seven.
Oh yeah.
I would say a little gooier.
Yeah, a little gooier for sure.
Did you say little gooier, Ben?
Yeah. For sure. And yeah, we also like when we're introduced to Maria, this is her son, her older son. She's also got a younger son as well.
Mm-hmm.
And seems to be pretty hardened too with the fact that she sent for someone to kill her son, and of course I would say that the two brothers are shocked at how rotten he was, like why is this gotten this far, this bad, you know what I mean? And they were kind of almost pissed at her for allowing it to be that way.
Yes.
Yeah, she like pray it away. She was thinking.
Yeah, but she did ultimately, I guess, she did ultimately send for someone to kill him, and she seemed to be pretty okay with the fact that someone was going to come kill her son.
Yeah, she had let the local government know, and they basically never got back with her.
Yeah.
So she was just taking care of him because, I mean, that's her son. And so even though she knows that something's not right, she's still caring for him as if it was still her son laying there,
Yeah, and he doesn't really talk at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
He just tells
Right.
he tells them to kill him.
Yeah, he wants them to kill him.
Yeah, and of course the mom's sitting there going, but you can't.
Yeah.
You can't kill him. You can't you can't kill him. Not the normal ways.
Yeah, so we're sort of like subtly introduced to a set of rules about dealing with this type of situation, and we don't learn all of the rules, but it's sort of this early stage. We're starting to sort of get a concept that this is something that happens in this world, and that there's some kind of rules around it and some kind of method of treating it and dealing with it. And so, yeah, they decide that they got to tell Ruiz. I guess, they're all sort of like neighbors here. I wasn't sure if she was on Ruiz's land or if that was like her own land or what the story was.
I think she was renting out. She was renting out from
Like a parcel of land from him. Yeah.
And I gotta say right there, Ben, what you said too, that's exactly what I thought that's exactly what I thought I was watching this was in a different world, elseworld, so to speak. This was not here. It was somewhere else, even though it looked like our world, but it wasn't. That's what I thought too. I was like, this is not here. This is somewhere else. This is, some other time, some other place.
It's sort of like reminded me of like mystic realism. I think that's what it's called, the sort of literal subgenre where it's like in our world, but then there's just like suddenly like 100 Years of Solitude. Have any of you guys read that or heard of that book?
Heard of it, but not seen it.
Yeah, it's just like, a standard world, and then they just sort of like randomly introduce like these fantastic things. So it's just sort of like a different world that is based on our own, but like they just take these fantastic things as part of their world.
Did you get the sense, because this is when I was listening to this, all of a sudden I got the sense of this being a dark fantasy disguised as a horror movie. Like I felt like when I'm going like, okay, I feel like we're just going through a door here. There's much more to this world than what we're seeing. But the way they talked and the way that the words came up on the subtitles, the cleaners with a capital C, it's like, and the rotten with a capital R, like this is how they describe beings and fantasy stories. They capitalize certain things, and I'm all in for it. I thought it was damn clever.
Yeah, it's it draws you right in the beginning. You have an unnerving situation, and you have some brutal, like disgusting practical effects, and a lot of tension already created. Yeah, so like right away, it sort of draws you in, I think. And it's paced really well, so like you're pretty much like on board, I think, through the whole thing. But yeah, they basically sort of assess the situation, decide that they need to bring Ruiz in on this one. So they talk to him. Ruiz comes and checks it out, and yeah, I guess he sort of has like, well, I don't know. He was an interesting character too. He was like very sort of short-tempered, very passionate type of guy, I guess you could say. Who also
he was scared.
He was scared, but he's also the type of guy who seemed like he wanted to pass the buck. He wasn't like, okay, let's deal with this, and what do we have to do to make this situation good? It was more like, where can we put this situation that we don't have to deal with it, and it won't affect us. So though he sort of takes charge of the situation, it's not like he's actually taking charge of the situation.
Right.
I mean, so I guess we can make sort of our own assessment of his character, but we know that he's got a pregnant wife. He looked pretty old. Looked
Yeah.
much older than his wife, I would say, probably.
Yes.
And he's basically, they sort of decide that they should move this rotten out of there. He wants to originally kill him, right? So,
Right.
like,
Yes.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah, everybody there said you can't do it.
yeah, he's good, right?
Well, it addresses him and says basically, as soon as you kill me, I'm going to visit you and your wife with her. He mentions that he knows his wife's pregnant. And he's going to come for her first. And so that shakes him up enough to where he decides not to shoot.
Creepy.
Well, plus the mother Elena said that she said that bullets are bad. You can't use bullets on the rotten because I guess maybe because I would think because of the spread, because everything it was sort of like a communicable disease. If you touch the rotten on any way, their clothes, if you allowed anything to get on you, you ran the risk of becoming one of them.
Yeah.
So you couldn't, so that was, that's why she says you can't kill. I mean, you can't kill them that way. And then they decided they're going to have to try to do it a different way.
It was kind of an interesting situation because there's all these well-known rules around it, but there also seemed to be a lot of like misunderstanding and confusion around the actual situation. So like it's like they don't exactly know how it's spread. They just know that there's a situation now and that there's a chance that it will spread. And we don't actually, I feel like we don't really know how it spreads. Like they're like, we can't take anything. We can't take clothes. We can't take when they ultimately, in a little bit here, when they leave. So like, it's interesting that there's so much sort of understanding and infrastructure like around this possession scenario, but like not an actual deep understanding of it and what they have to do. I found that interesting, at least.
Yeah. And I think, the brothers, they just want to leave and just say, let's get out of here, because they just don't want to have anything to do with it. But Ruiz is the one that's like, I don't want to leave my land. This is, mine. I shouldn't have to leave because of this thing. And that's why he's kind of has selfish motivations for, like you said, just kind of wanting to get it so it's not his problem.
Yeah. Got Cat Dad in the house. What's up, Horror Cat Dad?
Hey, Horror Cat Dad. That's right.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. And the sort of Rui sort of ended up taking charge of the situation, and I didn't get the feeling like the two brothers were renting from him. I felt like they were neighbors, right? Because
they were neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
But they still seemed almost like he was the manager. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. He seemed like the authority figure in this situation. And
I kind of wondered if they maybe done some work for him, like on his land, like if it's either keeping scavengers away, like things that would bother his livestock or whatever he has, or do little odd jobs or something. That was my thinking.
I thought the brothers deferred to him because it was his land and his land and his renters. It was basically his call to make whatever it was because it's happening on his property. That's why I think they sort of deferred to him because it's sort of hard to go on somebody else's house and sit there and say, "Yeah, we're going to do it this way, my way." I just think that they would. They just deferred to him for that. I'll tell you one quick thing about Ruiz. And you learn how to speak Spanish curse words in a real hurry.
Certified potty mouth.
Oh yeah, I was thinking also that's what that means. Yeah,
I was deeply offended the whole time. Yeah, so they basically decide to move the rotten dude. He was pretty heavy looking, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
he's
Slimy.
probably 300 plus pounds.
They should have brought a new tarp.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a lot to ask for a goose soaked sheet.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Yeah. Well, that's a lot to ask those guys to do it. I'm sitting there going like, hell no, would I touch that shit? No way.
Those aren't Egyptian.
That's what I'm saying. Like he's almost like the manager, because if they were just saying like, "This is your land, what do you want to do?" I'm out of here. You know, like if they were interested in passing the buck too, but they sort of like took his direction. Like, okay, yeah, let's help him.
I think that was because they knew what a rotten was, though. I think that was what helped them. It wasn't because of the Ruiz. It was just because they had known what a rotten was. They knew what the characteristics. So that's because they had went to the police station and they had reported it before they went to Ruiz. They remember they drove to the police station and they're going like, "What have you done about this? Have well, we known about it for a year. Well, why haven't you done anything about it? It's not our problem." And then
the interesting thing, of course, with hindsight after watching the entire film is that though this is a common occurrence, or this is some kind of common occurrence, so much so that there's infrastructure and rules and a thing to do, it seems like they actually aren't prepared at all for this. Like it's something that's like if all of a sudden the measles made a comeback or something, like we eliminated the measles and then we didn't have to think about them for so long, and now they're back, and like I got the feeling like this is not something that happens often. It's something that they know about or have heard horror stories of or whatever, but like definitely never dealt with firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so they move them basically after a little hubbub. They can get them.
How did like you guys were talking about earlier, I was sitting there going, how did that sheet make it through? I mean, how did it make it through? I thought the thing they lifted, that thing was split.
It tore. He tore through the first one, and they had to get another blanket. Actually get him up on the truck. Yeah.
Where I'm like, ugh.
Yeah. It was like, I guess they did a good job with the practical effects.
Very good. Yes. It all made us go.
It's very believable. Yeah.
Pretty disgusting looking.
And it looks on their faces like, pew.
Yeah. You just imagine what the stench would have been like. It would have been like, how in the hell could anybody stay within the house? It'd be like, you wouldn't have to do anything to them. You just leave the house, let them starve to death. I wouldn't go back. Oh my God, I wouldn't go in there for nothing.
I mean, he looked like he had it didn't look like he was in any serious danger of starving.
Right.
He had some stores built up, I think.
That was all goo.
Yeah. Oh, you think he was like a very like trim, like
maybe
like very lean, but then like filled with goo.
Yeah.
Maybe he had a bad cold. He was just back there.
He had a gooey center.
Yeah. Yeah, like once you get past that cookie crust, it's like a gooey nougaty center. Sorry. So they get him in the truck and they're like, okay, let's get him out of here. They just sort of drive. The characters in this are pretty interesting. Like Ruiz seems like a genuine piece of shit, to be honest with you. There's like some kid going to like riding his bike to school. Right. And he gets like, what the fuck are you doing? And like, he doesn't see him, so he has to swerve around him. And then he gets basically pissed at the kid who almost just got ran over because of
his. You son of a bitch! How dare you go to school on your bike?
Yeah. And when they sorry, go on.
I thought was really interesting when that happened. What was really interesting was the fact that you didn't hear anything. Like we later
find out what happened. 350-pound puffball didn't roll out. You didn't hear it.
Yeah, that truck didn't move at all. You didn't hear it. It was just like they didn't even know it until they had driven until where they thought they were going to drop them off at. Yeah. That was spooky.
Yeah, they get out, and of course, he's not there. freak out a little bit, but then ultimately say, well, fuck it, we were probably far enough away. Probably happened when I almost hit that piece of shit that was in my way.
Right. that was exactly. It's like, we tried, so we did enough.
So they basically say, yeah, whatever, fuck it, someone else's deal now. Which is interesting because I mean I get the sense that it's very the spread is. We don't really know like what the sort of happens like if a rotten starts to spread or whatever. But you know, it seems like if it's in a different neighborhood, then it's like less of a big deal. Who knows? At this point, they go back. Okay, we solved that. You know, and we join Ruiz and his wife having dinner, right? Afterwards, and this part was a little weird. Like suddenly,
because it flashed real quick. It went from the one guy in the bathtub and the other guy looking up at the antlers on the fireplace, and then they're done eating dinner, and boom, it's off to the farm.
yeah,
with the goat. It's like it clipped real fast right there.
Yeah, and also like we don't know how. So they figure out that the goat is possessed, right? Or they believe the goat is possessed.
How?
She comes to find him.
Like,
yeah, we have no idea how. She's like, it's a fucking possessed goat, and he's like, oh shit, that's the possessed goat. Okay.
All I know when I saw that goat, I said that's all I thought. I just thought a warm feeling in my heart said, I wonder if he's related to Black Phillip.
Definitely his second cousin, Argentinian relative.
Argentinian Philippe.
Black Philippe.
The only thing I could tell was, you know, as far as what made it stand out is it was just staring right at them the whole time and would never move, whereas the others were kind of milling about and doing what goats would normally do.
Yeah, because you shot the gun and they took off.
Yeah, but they shot the gun because they were like, that's a possessed fucking goat. I can tell.
Yeah. They got rid of the other goat. They shot the bullet just to scare the rest of them away. Yeah. And the last one's there, and he's like, Ruiz knows that he really cannot. He knows better. You know, he knows that, you know, like that's why he's taken so long. He says, like, you know, he's got the goat, he's got it right there, and the goat just walks up to him like, yeah, I'm right here. So what's up? You know, and he knows that he really should just, and his wife's sitting there back there saying, do not kill it like that. You cannot use a gun to kill it. Again, It's like over and over and over. Everybody, it's like the first rule in this world when dealing with a rotten is do not use a firearm to kill it. And of course, you know, we can't blame Ruiz. You can't blame him because he's scared shitless. You can see that when he has the shotgun there and his hands are shaking, which I thought was a really nice scene. You know, like you see how terrified he is. He's not being defiant. He's just scared shitless. And his wife's telling him, don't do it, don't do it. And the goat walks up to the, you know, like, I dare you. And he does it. He shoots the goat.
It was almost like he was, you know, like you were saying, nervous, finger on the trigger, and then like accidentally pulled it, you know, when he got startled, sort of, right?
I didn't see him start. I just saw him just get overcome.
It starts to make a noise like it's gonna, you know, and then that's what makes him pull the trigger, I guess. But
when I was watching, I got the feeling like he was obviously like very shook or whatever, and like, you know, had his like finger on the trigger and it made a sound, and sort of he was startled and like sort of pulled it, and because you can see like the instant moment where he's like, oh shit, what did I just do?
Yeah. He found out pretty quick what he did.
He did find out.
And she wanted to ask him a question.
Yeah.
I got a question. I gotta ask you.
Yeah, she wanted to ask him what was on his mind.
What's on your mind?
He just, that was a good shot. The shot that she took at him in the head, man, that was really, really good. That was
shit.
Man, that hurt.
So basically she grabs the axe and like, you know, like kills him with a single blow to the face.
Now I don't know if she was killed. I think she killed him because she knew that he would be infected. That's the reason why she was sitting there saying, don't shoot him, don't shoot
Well,
him. And I
I
think
think she knew what the progression was. It's like
right,
it's gonna go
We're
from
next.
him,
Right.
then to me, and Haver. And so I guess maybe she was acting out of, well, I'm just gonna end this before I have a chance to be a vessel for this being or whatever it is.
and didn't want her unborn child to go through it as well. Or, she was very pregnant. So I think she just, she knew, maybe she knew that she was going to be dead anyway. Like, it's like when someone bites, like you guys mentioned earlier, this is sort of like a zombie film. It's almost like as soon as he killed the goat, he was infected, and she knew that and that affected her. She knew that she was going to get it anyway, and she did not want to go out that way. So she's going to go ahead and she can and notice how she didn't rearm the rifle. She didn't rearm it. She didn't put a bullets back into it to kill herself. She used an axe. I think she felt like she using the axe, it would end the possession right there. But we never really got to know if that was the case or not because they couldn't get, they had to get the story moving.
Horror Cat Dad, I think, thought that she sort of like the second that
Me too.
got killed, she just like was possessed. So that was a possessed her. I got the
Yeah.
feeling like it was damage control. Personally, like I told you, oh shit, now we're both totally fucked because you did that so much so that we have to just sort of like end it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first time I saw it, I thought, yes, she was immediately possessed. But then when I watched it this time, it kind of like it felt more like she was like, okay, well,
Trying to
I know
stop
what's
it.
going to happen, so I can either do something or just let it take me.
Yeah. That's what I got too.
But she killed him without a gun, and like I guess she
Yeah.
thought it was gonna get her next.
Well, I sort of felt like it was like a murder suicide rather than like because like the possessed typically aren't like they can't kill themselves, right? Like
I think if she had been possessed, she would have just went on to whoever they were going to infect next. I guess that's what I would think. But just the will, though, to do what she did with that, to knowingly.
I question whether you could actually kill yourself with an axe to the face, unless you were able to do it like on the first blow. But she took multiple shots.
Yeah, she's like,
well, yeah, that makes I saw that too, and I was thinking about that and going like, well, if she was possessed, she would just absolutely be able to do that with no problem. It wouldn't be like slowly, stopping. She would have, if she was possessed, she would have just been able to do that with no problem. But the fact that I think she was a stopgap. She was like, if I die here, it contains itself right here. That's what I got with her. She was still human when she killed herself. She's absolutely still human. Huh?
I thought that too, but
yeah, and that's why the wax to the face is, he saw that as just slowly because she was dying and she didn't have any power left to hit herself. She did the two best shots, and after that she was losing her. She was going into shock, blood loss, whatever it was, and she was going to die as a human.
Yeah, I thought that whole I mean, this is still kind of the beginning of the movie. I'm not sure how much time has passed, but it was pretty brutal, visually. Like but I mean the practical effects were pretty amazing, but like you just don't see people get their fucking faces split open that often.
No.
Yeah, so that definitely had some impact, I would say. And then yeah, so basically the brothers go. When did they go into town to talk to the authority?
They talked to them way beginning of the movie.
Okay. Yeah,
so with the police officers.
They talked to the two cops, and there was some animosity between Pedro and the lead officer, and again they said, how long had you known? And the police said they had known for a year that Uriel had been rotten, but but no one from the government did anything about it, and they weren't going to rock the boat. So it's like that's why to me, I'm hearing this, I'm going like, oh, so this is a normal occurrence. This happens all the time here. It's like an outbreak, like the measles outbreaks. You would tell your center of control disease, like, hey, this is going on, but they
It
did
seemed to
happen.
me like when they talked to him though, like their stance was, we don't believe this is something to worry about. We think, a lot of these claims have been debunked. Like
Yeah.
we went on calls like this before.
Yeah,
It's
that was
nothing.
their.
You're overreacting. You really don't have any proof that this is what you're
I
dealing
think
with.
I definitely feel it. And did you too, Haas? Did you feel like they were just throwing that out there to deflect? But the cops themselves, they were just too chicken to go out there. They were just trying to put that off on there to distract them or deflect. But the
Yeah, and
cops
it
knew.
could be that, yeah, but they just did not
I
want
don't
to get
blame 'em.
involved at all.
I feel like they just couldn't be asked to actually do their job. I felt like it was like more incompetence than like them being scared. They just sort of like fucked up and didn't ever want to take responsibility for it,
Mhm.
And so they were sort of gaslighting the dude, saying like, this is nothing. It's why are you even worried about it? Blah blah blah.
Yeah. And if you want to keep on pressing the issue, I can lock you up right now if you'd
Mhm.
like,
Yeah,
And,
there's
and isn't that something? Wasn't that telling when he said that?
Mm-hmm.
For something that hadn't happened or no one really, that was just a falsehood, and yet all of a sudden it went from that to like, oh, we could lock you up. Well, yeah, of course you're gonna say that because you know what's going on. You're just too chicken shit to get out there to
maybe
do
a
it.
little bit of corruption going on as well.
Mhm. I don't know if they were. I wouldn't know they were so much cowards, but they just weren't equipped to handle it. They weren't. I mean, it only looked like one class of person was able to deal with these people, all the rotten, on a safe basis, and those were the cleaners. But we never really got the idea how many those were, and they certainly, that certainly was a rough job to have because it seemed like they just try, it was rough. It was a very difficult job, and I didn't get it. It sounded like to me what the cleaners were used to be priests from the church because they had mentioned about the church and the church had shut down. People had no faith in the churches and they all went away. And the cleaners were probably the last of the last. They were like the priests or the people in the church themselves. That's just how I read it.
yeah, I got the feeling like I mean, I guess we never saw any young cleaners, so it didn't seem like there was like we saw like sort of like a retired cleaner, and we saw like we saw like a half a cleaner and like a retired cleaner, and like we saw people that had an understanding of what was going on, but didn't really actually have a good grasp of what was going on, what to do about it. So to me, it seemed like it was like an epidemic that had happened at one point, but was not common anymore. So there was like some kind of like people understood there was some thing you had to do to deal with it, but they didn't actually really know how to do that thing.
Yep.
And also there was everyone knew the rules and everyone seemed to say like, fuck the rules. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like no lights. Okay, fuck it. I'll use this light, whatever. It's cool. Or like, like, oh, don't shoot him with a gun. Okay, here's a gun. Or like, don't kill him at all because then a demon will be born. Okay, I'll just fucking kill this dude, whatever. It's like everyone seemed to know like what not to do, but they still did it anyway. And yeah, so basically, Pedro and his brother, they are freaked out because all this shit is starting to go down. They're concerned that it's going to spread, uh, and so they decide to like leave their place and not take anything with them, so that they can mitigate the spread. And then he wants to go into town to get his kids and ex-wife or whatever. So that's what they do. They go into town, and he goes to try to get his kids, and Yeah, this was quite a little scenario that we have going on.
Sabrina, or what's her name?
Sabrina, yeah, Sabrina, the wife, and then Vicky's the daughter, and Santino the little boy, and Leonardo the new husband of Sabrina.
Yeah, what was the dog's name?
Hungry.
Yeah.
He wasn't supposed to go there because she had a restraining order against him. We find out.
Yeah, we find out like he's like a lot of people had a lot of animosity towards him. The Coughs and like Ruiz and like his ex and all that stuff.
Her new husband, didn't want to let him in, Leonardo. So
yeah, but he basically forces his way in and strips naked in their living room or kitchen or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like
he looks very thin and like he's just so tired. And before this shit hit, he was so tired.
He had to change out of his clothes is because he had, they had just come from the Uriel, and so he still had all that junk on his clothes.
Yeah, he smelled like
to death.
That guy, Ariel.
My question is, if he knew he had to get rid of his clothes, why would he do it inside? Is the question in the first place.
Right.
Yeah.
Seemed like he would have known to maybe do that outside or something.
Maybe because they wouldn't have opened the door if he was naked.
It also seems like he could have changed out of his like Uriel soaked clothes and into something
beforehand. Yes. Yeah.
Well, remember though, when they left though, they didn't take anything with them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but he didn't trust
not
anything that was still at their home.
Yeah,
he didn't trust anything. So that's why.
Putting the goo on them.
Yeah, I mean,
well, no, because everything in the house could have been possessed.
But it's not going to be nothing. Actual goose-soaked clothes.
Well, you would think that the first thing they would have did was to do that, to get rid of the clothes and everything else. But they wanted to, but they just couldn't do it at the house. The house itself had been dated.
I got the impression from the way this movie worked out is a lot of people were making rash decisions and not thinking things through. And I think the clothes was just another in the line of those decisions that were made.
And money.
Yeah.
No money.
They didn't take any money with them. I don't know. Do you think this is sort of like metaphor for COVID? I mean, do you think this is something that they, when they made this movie, this is sort of like how people reacted to the pandemic?
They sure did down here.
The director stated that the movie was about bureaucracy.
Okay.
Is my understanding, but I didn't get the feeling like I didn't actually read the entire article about what that bureaucracy is around. But yeah, I mean, it could very well be. I feel like you can interpret it in a lot of different ways. But I think, of course, us recent events, we're going to sort of view it through a Cody in the house. What's up, dude?
Hey.
We're going to view it through a pandemic lens. And it is a pandemic type of situation they're dealing with, right? They're trying to prevent a spread of something.
The evil.
So yeah, basically he goes and his brother goes to get the mom, and he goes, Pedro, right? Goes to get the
boys,
the family. And
so was the little girl his ex-wife's new kid with the
that was the kid she had with Leonardo. Vicky was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I didn't even catch
two boys were his, and then the girl was the new husband's or whatever.
Okay.
But yeah, he basically no one took him seriously about a rotten, being there. He's like, we gotta go. He didn't do himself any favors, but like easing them into anything. He just sort of like ran in, stripped, and was like, go pack everyone's shit, we're out of here.
Well, that, and she was more just like, we haven't seen you in however long, and now you're coming here wanting all this stuff. It's like just the whole thing was, to her, didn't make any sense, because it's like, why do you act like you care now when there's been all these years, and you basically, like, she was acting like, you didn't care about us before, why do you care now? That was kind of what I got from her yelling at him.
Yeah, it was a pretty it was a pretty chaotic scenario. A lot of a lot of activity and people not like calmly discussing anything. Yeah, but it was pretty chaotic. But yeah, we basically see the dog and
Sniffing and licking on the clothes.
yeah, and we know something's gonna happen. I mean, you're watching this, you get the feeling like, oh yeah, that dog's gonna be possessed or something. They you know,
I thought that dog was going to get framed. I said, you know what? They're going to try. They're going to have that dog framed for this. It's going to be somebody. It's going to be a small little corgi back there, and they're going to end up blaming that other dog for that shit. And really, the dog over there. That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
he got kind of caught red-handed though.
Yeah, under the table, snacking.
Yeah, I was like, that he got framed up. Someone tricked him.
Yeah, so I mean, we see the dog. We get the feeling like the dog's gonna freak out.
Yeah.
But when you actually we see the dog like actually strike out, and then we see the dog sort of ragdolling the little girl, and it's pretty shocking, right? I mean, like
Very shocking.
like you don't expect to see that actually. You don't expect to see like violence against kids, I guess.
Right.
Part of it, let alone by like the family dog. It's pretty disturbing.
It is.
And
Probably the most singularly disturbing scene in the movie because that can happen and has happened and does happen. And
Yeah.
I really get through and you're thinking there going like, holy shit, what do you do? I mean, how would you stop that? It's like, that dog did not look like it was gonna stop if you hit it with a newspaper. And it's just like it was terrifying.
Roger.
Good,
Isn't it
yeah,
the
good
dog's
people.
name's Roger?
Roger,
Like, can we bring Roger with us? Sure.
I think maybe it was part to do with the dog didn't like his name. I mean, what self-respecting dog's gonna like being called Roger?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that family kind of deserved it after naming the dog Roger. That was their bad.
Well, the thing I couldn't figure out is how when that dog, they see him going out the door, but like when that dog is out the door, he must have hit Mach 1 because like they go outside and nowhere to be found. I'm like, when it's dragging something, like you don't think that. Of course, I guess it's not operating on human bounds that we would understand. So
yeah,
Right.
and I'm not a parent, but I'd imagine that as a parent watching that would be pretty disturbing. Like what
Be
would
doing Mach 1 chasing it.
yeah, and they do chase it. Yeah, but the dog basically like ragdolls the girl and then runs out of the house holding her fucking head, right?
Yeah.
Or her whole body. I don't know.
he drug her
Just,
whole
like,
body. Yeah.
Drug that little kid out.
Ben Graham asking the hard hitting questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they basically they go on a quest to find the dog, right? The fall, everyone's upset at this point. And Pedro's just still trying to pack up the kids. He's like, yeah, whatever. That's sad, but
He sees Leonardo
That's your
leave out
kid,
the
I got
gun, and he's
mine.
like, "You really don't need to shoot this thing."
Right. Don't. Yeah. He did the same thing. He says, "You don't kill it. Don't shoot it." It's like here you are watching your daughter get chomped up, and you got some guy walking up there going like, "Don't shoot the dog. Don't shoot it." I mean, you'd be tempted around to shoot him. Like here, you're the one that brought this to the house. How about if I just put one in your kneecap here?
But at this point, if he did bring it to the house and we see the dog get possessed and attack of course you're gonna still want to follow the protocol of like all these rules that you learned about as a kid with your fairy tale, your fucking like songs and shit. So like, but no one seems to give a fuck. He's like, okay, I'm taking the gun and I'm gonna shoot the dog or whatever, right? So yeah, basically we see the Pedro still at the house, trying to get everyone together, and he's like, fuck it, whatever. Like, the they're gone, but I'm just going to steal their car and get out of here with my kids. And
But then he comes back and there's the little girl's there and the mom's hugging the little girl, right?
This is after he sees Leonardo shoot the dog.
yeah, he sees
Yeah.
you see the dog, and then you hear the shot.
Yeah.
I appreciate the filmmakers didn't make us watch the dog die. They had
it's sort of messed up though, because think about it. They didn't have no problems at all showing the goat buying it hard, but then they turn around and pull the punch on not the dog getting shown. I think that's sort of like goat discrimination there.
That's bad.
I was thinking more of the little girl, but
Okay.
but yeah, so we basically know like the little girl's back and she's not damaged, she's not dead, she's just like,
Yeah, we know that she's possessed right away. As soon as we see
Pedro definitely knows.
Yeah, Pedro knows. He's busy trying to get his sons out of there. One of the sons is autistic, and so he's trying to deal with him, and he promises him some apple ice cream if he helps him find the keys or whatever.
I have never had it. Sounds good.
I've never had apple ice cream in my life.
No.
But honestly, watching it, I was like, God damn, I want some apple ice cream.
Right.
Like he said.
Yeah, there was no one there, but I took my keys out and was trying to hand them to someone.
I thought the actor who played the autistic boy, I thought he did an outstanding job.
Yeah, you could tell like he was pretty far on the other end of the spectrum where like he's not interacting with people really too much. And they set that up. And he's doing like some STEM stuff and like basically I thought dealing with his son was about the only sort of calm thing we saw Pedro do, even though like he wasn't always calm, but he was still pretty patient with his son,
Yes.
which seemed
he's like, it's me. Like, don't bite me.
Right.
He just woke him up and somebody's trying to grab you out of bed.
But yeah, so I mean, he packs him up in the car. He sees the wife. The wife sees the daughter. Daughter says, Daddy's gonna come back and blah blah blah. He's gonna kill you.
He tells her what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Boom.
And then it happens. And so yeah, basically they're out after that. They're like, fuck it.
What's really strange about that shows the little girl jumping up and down. And I think this is the siege for another scene later on. This whole scene is the siege for something that happens later, and we'll get to it. But I think this is like the first infestation or manifestation of what's going to happen to the town, because they don't go back. They don't go back to Leonardo to see what's happened to him. Like he's still alive, and he's looking to the. And the last thing we see him, he's looking and he sees his daughter dancing. But I think that's set up for something else later on down the movie.
So they jump on the road. He goes, picks up his brother and mother, and they're like heading out of town. And this is where we sort of get introduced to the mother character, and also she tells what's the little boy's name?
Santino.
Yeah, she's telling Santino about the rules, and like she leaves the last one out, but there's like apparently 10 rules, right?
7.
I think it was 7 total.
When I said 10, I meant 7.
Yeah,
there was a lot of
3
rules. Yeah, there was no gunpowder, no lights.
Right. No, don't
stay away from animals because animals are the first ones to get possessed.
Yeah. Don't be afraid.
Don't call them by their name.
Yeah, don't call them by their name.
Don't hurt them. I guess that's the same, but that's what she said. Don't take anything close to you.
Right.
Right.
But yeah, so we find out.
We can't run by them. Don't run. And yeah, don't run. Don't carry anything with you. And yeah.
And it was we find out like it was you know, part of a famous song, right? But like, so it was that was kind of a weird little thing, but we find out that it was the information was important enough that they tried to teach it to kids through like some nursery rhyme type of situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But then again, no one actually seems to give a fuck about those roles.
Like Ring Around the Rosie.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're
sweet song.
they're going they stop to get some apple ice cream, but they have no money, and the place didn't have any apple ice cream.
So they give him a popsicle.
Give him a popsicle, and he's like, I don't give a fuck about this popsicle. It doesn't taste like apple ice cream.
It is dripping.
Yeah, he was holding it off all way over here, like no.
And the mom calls, right?
Yes.
And
I think so. Yeah.
She's calling Pedro's mother. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Pedro takes the phone, and he knows that she got hit by the car and is dead, so it can't actually be
She
her.
calls Pedro a murderer.
Yeah, but that's because she knows that Pedro's you know, he's really emotional, you know, and that's the one thing too that I think they mentioned too about the emotion. You got to be sort of like quiet, and you can't really have a lot of emotion. And you know, he loses his temper, he gets scared, he reacts too fast.
And basically, this being can track you through your attachment to, you know, other people or whom it may have touched already, right? Didn't they say that?
Yeah, they did. It's there for. I don't like feel like I have a actual deep understanding of how this situation is. You know what I mean? Like, I know that they're trying to avoid an actual demon being born with the death of a rotten, right? So if the rotten dies, then a demon is born.
Right.
And we know that there's a bunch of rules, but apparently, like, people that are possessed, you know, defy death. You know, so but I don't know if that's through people's minds. Like, that little girl would still have a lot of like physical trauma to her face and head and neck area from that dog, but she didn't, right?
No, she was spotless.
Well, she didn't, but then when we see
Yeah.
Sabrina later, she of course does have that trauma.
As
Not
does
so much this side.
Yeah.
Right.
This side. Two-face.
But basically, yeah, he smashes the phone and has a little breakdown, and they get the fuck out of Dodge and realize that they don't have any money, and don't know what to do, so they stop.
Jimmy tells him somewhere he knows somewhere they could go, right?
Yeah, so
Some
they
lady
go.
named Myrta.
Yeah, so they go to Myrta. What's the year? What's the autistic son's name?
Jair.
Okay, Jair.
Yeah, so he's sort of like in the car. They can't get him out because they don't have apple ice cream, obviously. So he's sort of sitting in the car, and everyone's sort of like assessing the situation. Yeah, what do we think when we meet? What was her name?
Myrta.
What did you guys think when we sort of they get outside?
I thought she was gonna be like the priest character from like The Exorcist, the wise one.
She kind of was, right?
She's tough. She's smart. She seemed to know what was going on. She's like, I don't have any electric.
Yeah.
She already seemed to have an inkling, I guess, when they pulled up.
She was not a young woman. But apparently her and Jamie had like an affair or something, right? At some point.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But she is an older person, and we find out that she has a past where she was a cleaner,
Yes.
We find that, and so she sort of is an authority in some ways of this. And night falls, right? Did the wife said that she was going to come and take the kids, right, on the phone?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's in our mind, and night comes, and they're trying to get, still dealing with Yair and
Santino.
Santino.
Santino, and and they talk about shadows moving too, right? Just of their own as an indicator. But they realize that there's no lights on in the city.
Yeah, that's what Myrta pointed that out. She says, "Look, there's no lights in the city. Something's already happened," and I think that was that. I think that was the infestation coming from when earlier. I think what happened there is spread to the city, and that's what caused them to lose their power.
And
It was almost
the
like-
light on the teddy bear kind of was like a lighthouse for evil. Where?
Yeah, she falls asleep with the electric teddy bear, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, ultimately, I guess we don't really know if they lost the power, or if they disabled the power, so that
I think they were probably disabled. I mean, what was going on over there?
She said they might have. What did
Protocol?
she say? Protocol. That was it. But before even it got dark, she told Jimmy that she thought Jair was already possessed.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. Because his hands were like freaking out. She says, like, yeah, the possessed, if they enter a person, they sort of get, an autistic person who doesn't have a standard, his mind doesn't work the way a standard person's mind works, that they sort of get lost in that labyrinth for a while before they sort of can come to terms with how to possess that person properly.
I was thinking to myself when I heard when I heard her say that, and I kept on thinking like a closed, locked instance. Thinking what would happen with that? I mean, your demon wouldn't be able to get out at all because it's locked in and there's nowhere for it to go.
Wasn't the rotten autistic too?
I don't know that we had learned that.
Because
I don't
know. He wasn't. I guess he was talking when he was the demon guy. I guess.
I mean, I got the feeling like he was pretty sick when they met him. He wasn't really into having a conversation, right?
Right.
Right.
But
Other than saying things to try to get people to kill him.
Yeah.
Saying things to upset people.
But I think we don't really understand how it's not a single entity possession that pops in from person to person. There can be more, it spreads, right?
Right.
Because at any given time, we know that the daughter was possessed and the mom was possessed and Yair is possessed. And so it's like spreading. Basically the mom / grandma falls asleep with the electric teddy bear light on, and we see some shadows moving of their own accord. And the mom, I guess I'm going to refer to the older one as grandmother, but the mom, Pedro's ex Sabrina, shows up for Santino, and she's pretty fucked up. She has a fucked up looking face. And Pedro goes up to talk to her, and she
Grandma took her Ambien and can't tell what's going on.
Yeah. So she jumps out the window and runs away with the kid.
She tried to get Jair too, because the car's covered in blood.
Yeah, she walks up to him. She puts her hand on the window, and she smears the blood there, so it's her. She's found him, and you got to think about it too. That was the reason I think why she was so messed up was because you got to think about it. They drove for a long time. It wasn't just like they left the town and went like 2 miles out the road to the 7-Eleven. They drove for a long time. And so that woman, Sabrina walking, I'm sure she was fresh as a daisy when she started walking, but I'm sure she degraded the further she walked. I mean, I'm sure she degraded. That's why we saw her in such a bad shape. and that was pretty telling too, how fast she got there. I mean, she got there pretty damn quick, but at a cost.
Yeah, I guess we don't really know how far they drove.
Yeah.
Other than we know that they were outside the city enough to be able to see the entire city with the lights off. So they were at least on the outskirts. But yeah, she catches up. She steals the kid, and then goes missing. And of course, everyone's freaking out. Pedro and Myrta decide to go
looking for the juicy dude.
Go look for Mr. Magoo, and Jamie decides to go find the
Sabrina and the
I'm bad with names. I'm never gonna
Sabrina and Santino.
Yeah,
Santino Morella.
Santino.
And of course, so he goes off. It's nighttime, and yeah, he's obviously using electric lights, kind of shutting them off. But then for some reason, like, you know, he sees her and he turns them back on. So it's like, I don't know.
He
tries to ride. He tries to ride for like a little bit with them off, and then cut back on just so he can make sure there's nothing he's going to hit. I think. I don't.
Yeah,
but he's really not one to use the lights at all. So
right.
He drive off, then turn them on for a split second, then turn them off. And so that's why he was a little surprised when he turned them on, and there's Sabrina, you know, and he just, you know, he turned them off, and he let her walk by him, you know, like let her walk by, like, you know, and then put them back on to see what she was doing, and so that's all what he was. Saw how she was, you know, recharging her battery, so to speak, and he lost his mind.
She was eating spinach dip.
Yeah, some kind of fondue.
Yes.
Or sandu.
Maybe some head cheese.
Yeah.
Head cheese.
Milk bones.
But yeah, basically, like, he drives by her and he sees that she's like scooping out Santino's brains and eating it, as she's sort of like all just sort of walking along. And yeah, that was pretty gross.
Well, so, remember they used to say in the 70s, a brain is a terrible thing to waste.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
He wasn't wasting it.
And he basically like runs her over into a tree, slams into her. And
it wasn't with the gun.
It wasn't with a gun, but when the second he saw her, he turned his lights right on and like pulled right up to her, and then, like, you know, like, okay, if you were like, why even were you shutting them off before? Now you know she's there, so why do you need them on all of a sudden? But we see her with a big ass hole in her head, dripping some stuff, and still conscious though. And then I guess we sort of cut to Pedro and Myrta, right? They sort of go back to where they think that you know, Uriel had dropped.
Right, because she says that evil likes children. So when they saw that kid, she figured that's probably where he went.
Right, yeah. Schoolhouse full of kids.
Yeah,
I thought that was a really good piece of storytelling right there, and actually rooted in fact. You know, as far as possession goes, kids are more susceptible, you know, to being young to being possessed than not.
Are there actual facts around possession?
There are many documented cases. I mean, there are. I mean, it's one of the things that it's because their mind are open to possibilities. So that's why they experiment, because they're open to it. I mean, there's books out there that you can read about it, but
I feel like there's documented cases of Yetis and skunk apes as well.
What about Sasquatches, though? You can't have Yetis without a Sasquatch. Mr. Dan knows all about that.
That's true. And I mean, what's a goat without a good chupacabra. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
True.
Yeah, but at any rate, I don't know too much of the lore around possession. I'm not a religious dude. But apparently, I guess kids are historically susceptible. Yeah, so they go to the schoolhouse. It's all like spooky and shit.
They find his blanket too, I think.
Do they find his blanket?
Well, they
Yeah, they
drive
trust
by
the
where the
blanket on the
blanket
fence.
was at. Yeah, on the fence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they basically are like on the hunt. She's got her cleaning equipment. What did you guys think of that cleaning equipment, by the way?
It seemed very like it was something that had been handed down through time, maybe like that. It was, equipment that only certain people had used or had been taught to use, I guess, maybe.
Right.
It definitely had like a Victorian instrument aesthetic made of brass and in a wooden
It
case.
was like a sextant.
Yeah, it looked a lot like a sextant. And it had like, but it broke down, fit in a case. It's pretty interesting. And then, there was a point where, sorry, go on.
If you go back to the beginning of the movie, after they found the first cleaner that's dead, they found that case, and Jamie he commented that I've seen this before.
Yeah,
and that was of course with Myrta and her husband.
And he had a piece of it that he kept looking at and sort of like pondering, and I was like, that is the dumbest piece of that equipment, dude, for you to ponder. Like, of all the the fucking handle,
the circle part.
It's just a handle, dude. You can see it's a handle. Why are you curious about that part?
The actual blade, the long blade, that would have been more what I would have been grabbing if I would have grabbed something.
Or like the parts that move and shit. Like he's got this little like weird hooky brass looking part. I'm like, okay. But maybe he just wasn't the sharpest tool in the wooden box or whatever, But at any rate, she's got her equipment. She mentions that she used to be like a scam artist with her church, ripping off people, and then a possessed person came and it sort of changed her life, and she became a cleaner. So
they threw up their family.
Yeah, they threw up their family. So here's another thing we find out about the possessed is they like to eat their family. Or that's a sign or something they do.
And they flashed at Jahar walking in the house telling Grandma he's hungry.
Yeah, using perfect language.
Right? Yeah, well, he's up walking.
Upright.
That's the first thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then speaking, of course, as well. Yeah.
I'm cold and hungry.
I mean, he was walking before. He wasn't wheelchair bound or anything.
No.
Right, like in the house and.
Well, I guess the way he was walking, you could tell there was a difference in how he had moved before. That's what I got.
Yeah. He was possessed. Once he started talking normal, you knew he was possessed.
We could tell that. He was not the same old Yair that we all have grown accustomed to. He tells his grandmama that he's tired and cold, and bring him some stuff. And we go back to the schoolhouse, and we see. I thought this whole like final sort of setting of the schoolhouse was done pretty well. It was pretty atmospheric and creepy.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like there was something completely off about that location and the kids, but like, they're just sort of sitting in the dark. What was
white powder stuck all over them?
Yeah, white powder stuck all over them. We find out
blood coming out of their mouths.
Yeah. And it also at some point, like they're still, they don't believe it's Earl, but one of the kids says, "Oh yeah, he's over at my parents' house. My dad tried to help him." Or something, and they're like in the car, and then a second little girl comes up and she's like, no, he's over there. So and then Petro's just like, fuck you, kid. And like,
Yeah.
Pedro
Beat the
don't give a
crap.
fuck, dude.
He starts beating that little girl down.
He's
He
like,
said, "Bam!" Knocked
like,
her to the ground with the
I'll beat
car
the devil
door
out
that
of
had
you.
me.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so
I'll beat the
funny.
devil out of you.
And then Murta, of course, is saying, "Hey, they're trying to get us to leave here. He's obviously in this building somewhere."
and they sort of track him down to the gymnasium. They find some open planks in the stage and a bunch of white powder all around, and they discover the adult bodies under the stage in that sort of area. And yeah, Murder's sort of directing the situation, saying like, okay, look, get all those people out. If he's under there, we need to pull him out. We blah blah blah. Here's the thing:
I need his nape of his
we need
neck.
the nape of his neck, which we find out is where the incision point is for the killing ritual with that dagger she's got.
Reiki thing, yeah.
But yeah, they're in the gym, and all the kids are there watching them. And yeah, still trying to manipulate him, like go, there's an axe over there, so you can kill him, or blah blah blah.
Maybe cut him out.
That's another part that didn't make sense. He didn't believe the girl when she was telling him stuff outside, but yet he believes her the second time. I don't understand why he would, other than just desperation of.
Well, I think the juicy guy says something to him.
Yeah,
in the hole, he said something to him like, if you hurry up, you can save your kid or something, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't catch it, and I was like, damn, I missed what that said.
Yeah, I mean, we can tell like the gooey possessed rotten dude is basically just trying to sweet talk everyone around him into killing him so that he can get this demon born already.
Right.
And that's like the one thing that you shouldn't do, obviously, because you don't want a demon born. But of course, he's a passionate man, he's not good with impulse control. But yeah, the kids say like, there's an axe over there, and he's like, oh, okay. So he goes into the room to get the axe. Even though
screams to tell him not to leave her alone.
Yes. She's like, don't listen to them. Don't,
It's a trap.
She warns him.
Yeah. Even if you have the axe, what are you going to do? She has to die in like a particular.
Well, I think he was going to have to chop up the dead bodies to lift them, because they're all, Uriel was stuck underneath them, and he couldn't lift them because of all the bodies. So I think he was going to have to.
I would have chopped the
I think he was more going to use it for the boards, though. But
yeah, I would have chopped the wood up.
He couldn't lift Uriel by himself. And to me, I was a little bit surprised. I'm going, okay, you set up that equipment on that table when you know that he's down there on the board. Why wouldn't you set up your equipment close to the body so he wouldn't have to do all that? To me, like put it on the ground. Give him a chance. I mean, if she would have set up on the ground, I mean, she could have used her reach to get him on the nape. All he had to do was just buy her like 30 seconds of lifting as much as he could. 30 seconds. All he had to, he wasn't going to get that guy out of that hole. I mean, even if there's no boards there, he's still not going to get that guy out of there.
But you don't need to get him out if you have access with no boards around him. You can still.
I just felt like you could see the inexperience of Murta. Like Murta was not a top-notch cleaner. She was still relatively new to it. But she commented over and over, "This is new to me. I don't know what this is. I've never seen this before." She kept on saying that. And the thing that it is all that told me was her husband may have been a cleaner, but she was more like an apprentice, more learning
assistant.
I got the feeling like it was just it had gotten to a point as far as like all these possessed kids and shit that she had not been exposed to yet. I felt like she knew what she was doing as far as being, and we don't know, like maybe you have to set up the equipment 3 feet above the body. Who knows what the fuck that equipment is? They never tell you. You know what I mean? All we know is there's a dagger you got to stab in the nape of the neck whenever you use the equipment to do whatever you do with it.
Yeah, I just would have tried to it's either that or like beforehand. I mean, you probably would have to try to get the kids to go outside. Like try to get them out of them so you could lock, so you could so it's just you and her. And they made no effort at all to get those kids out of there. It wasn't like, get out or you'll die. And she's got the dagger. She's got the dagger. And, she would. I mean, I don't know why that didn't happen either. It's like she had the dagger in place. If he needed a few kids removed, why not do that? It
Yeah.
seems like it just seems like yes, you run the risk, but it seems to me like you need to even the playing field a little bit. And she just didn't handle it the right way. That's how I felt. I felt she made too many mistakes.
I felt
And
like
she talked
Pedro.
down to him too. If you notice that throughout the whole movie, Myrta talked down to both the brothers. Not that there's no like a sense of urgency to work together. She's always, she called them idiots, and she says, and she just kept on saying how wrong they all were, and there was none of that. Okay, so here's the situation. Here's what we need to do together, and you just really felt like you didn't really feel like Myrta was really on their side as much as you would think.
Now, as a counterpoint, can you blame Myrta? Pedro's kind of an idiot. His brother, also not the sharpest tool in the shed. A bit too much. Pedro is the leader, right? And Pedro as a leader is not in control of himself. He's like using lights and running past like possessed kids and like, making stupid mistakes about leaving her when she says don't leave. I mean,
I think if she had talked to them beforehand, before they went on their mission, I think she had actually talked to them a little bit and explained to them about, it's like, even if you go to The Exorcist, right? And there's Father Karras, and he's doing his best, right? He's doing his best, but he gets racked by his emotions. And then the older father had to take him aside and calm him down, saying, "Easy, don't listen to it. It's a lie." He didn't come down on him like a ton of bricks, saying, "You're an idiot for listening to this shit," And so I just felt like in this situation, the best thing to do is, especially two people who aren't trained for this at all. I mean, they have no idea what they're facing. And she said that too. You have no idea what you're facing. Well, tell them. Show them what they need to do in order to survive the night. And instead she ends up calling them idiots. It's just like, oh, not exactly endearing.
I feel like might not be exactly enduring, but I don't know that you can really pass the buck on to her. I mean,
well, I look at it again, like I said, a lot of people are making rash decisions and that's not really thinking things through. And she had kind of let him know, like, hey, you need to follow my lead on this when we go in here. Do what I tell you. Like she was telling him not to talk, not to don't interact with these kids at all. And at one point the girl's offering, like he's saying, get her to come help him lift the rod out. She's like, no, don't. And I think if he had done what she said and continued on, I don't think those kids would have been able to physically do anything to them. But when they're separated, that's where they have the upper hand because she has no one to help her anymore. She's on her own.
It's hammer time.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I think at this point she's seen. I mean, Pedro just like 3 minutes ago, after she's like, "Don't do this shit," assaulted a kid, right? Like was smacking a kid around. Like,
yeah,
I don't know that you're gonna be like, "Oh, hey, dude, come here. I just want to have a quick word." Like maybe let's not smack the kids, and like, I need to do this, and I'm just gonna explain what I'm gonna do. Like, at some point, people just say, dude, just listen to me and don't do the shit. And
well, basically, the kids know she's the only threat because he doesn't know how to perform the procedure.
Yeah,
so they're like, if we can get rid of her, then he can't do anything.
And he's easily manipulated.
Yeah.
And yeah, so basically, he turned his back. They lock him in the room. They pull her down and like smash her head with a hammer.
And then the gooey guy's like, Pedro.
Yeah.
Like, Pedro.
Yeah, he's all of a sudden like sitting up, like, "Hey, dude."
Mm-hmm.
And Pedro's like, "Okay, fuck it, I'll just smash his head with this thing then." And he does. He smashes it pretty good.
That's the only part of the whole movie that did not. You can see where the budget was in play here. That
so
did
cool.
not look at. That did not look real. It looked terrible, actually. Um, yeah, it looked like he was hitting just. Yeah, you could definitely tell there's a little bit of budget thinness right there, and because he hit it and it was like I don't know, like paper mache. You could definitely tell that was.
Well, he's rotten.
He's wrong, dude. That guy was ripe.
Yeah, well, which means that he would have,
Squishy.
he would
Basically,
have.
he had just been in an incubation pod
But he didn't. He
this
didn't. He didn't
demon.
squish. He didn't squish. He went hollow. It was like he hit him over there, and he just went. There was like nothing in him.
He's
That was my point. It's like he would have been
he's
like
a shell.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what he came across as, a shell.
The demon was essentially
But he
using
is a
him as an
shell.
embryonic sac.
Yeah, the demon's not in his head. The demon's in the swelly, gooey bit, the mass, center of mass, right?
Yeah, you guys could be right. I just thought that part right there, that's the only thing I saw was just it looked a little bit, it looked a little cheesy, but it still worked. I mean, it got part of the story over, but I could definitely tell that was a little bit iffy.
Yeah, well, so he kills him, the one thing he's not supposed to do. And then a demon's born. Demon walks away with the kids.
Demon's born. Hello.
Yeah, the demon's just like leaves him alive and is like, whatever. And he marks him, right? Walks by him.
Yeah, puts the hand right over his forehead.
Mm-hmm.
He's marked.
Yep. And that marking doesn't come off later when he's trying to rub it off.
No, it doesn't.
No.
Marks for life. Yeah, they basically just go home after that. Just like, fuck it.
Yep, gives Jair, how you say his name, Jair, his ice cream, because he had the ice cream at his house, didn't he?
Right. Yeah, he had ice cream at the house.
Man, where are they getting this ice cream?
I know. Before, when they went to the house, there was nothing in it but beer.
Stocked up.
Maybe they made a stop off at the,
Instacart.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we basically see Yair starts choking, right? A bit.
Well, before that though, they were out in the barn. They had Uriel's younger brother was staying there, and Jamie goes out there and to see how he's doing, and then he finds out that what had happened when they were gone.
Yeah, the kid confesses.
Right.
Basically.
The kid confesses that he was the one that killed the cleaner, and he's the one that helped chop him up, and he ate of him.
Yeah.
And he also says
that means he was
did the same to his mother.
Mm-hmm. He goes, what happened to your mother? He says, the same as yours. I was like, oh, shit.
But then the interesting part is, like, he's the only person who seems to not be fully possessed. He was possessed. He says, I did it because of voices or whatever, but he looks like he's got some kind of remorse. And no one else that's possessed had any kind of weird remorse or anything. Like,
right.
Everyone else was just like full gung ho about it. So yeah, he basically says, yeah, I ate my mom just like your mom got eaten. And we cut to Yair like at the table choking, and Pedro's pulling out long bits of like bloody scalp and hair. And we realized that he ate the grandmother.
Yeah.
Yeah, she has the little grandchildren on a necklace.
Yeah, that's the last thing that he pulls out, the necklace.
Yeah.
I feel like I wouldn't have eaten the necklace if I was a cannibalistic possessed dude. I would have skipped that.
It's a little scratchy.
Yeah.
Maybe he thought it was made out of candy.
Oh yeah. And that's where we end it, right? We don't get any like
no,
I goes out and screams in the front yard. It's about it.
And you notice that Jamie didn't do anything. They didn't show Jamie doing anything to the kid. He left him alone. He just walked away. He didn't do anything. He was like, I can't kill him because there you go again.
But we don't I don't really actually like. It's only the rottens that will birth a demon if you kill them. Like the rest of the possessed don't even really die, right?
I don't know. I mean, it seems like they all everybody. It seemed like they. It seems like they would. I don't know. I mean, because I was waiting for that to happen. I was waiting for Jamie to go like, "Oh, you son of a bitch," but he didn't. He just, he left. He didn't show any resolution. And then he's standing out in the front and with his brother, and his brother comes out and he falls apart. He's got that. He's been
I
marked
think,
by the demon, and
yeah, it's pretty much like this is it. This is hopeless. There's nothing. I've lost both my sons. Ex-wife, everybody.
Demon got
Everybody's dead except for me and my brother, and
yeah,
it's a hopeless situation, basically.
Can't get this fucking mark off my forehead.
Right.
Give me eczema.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it. We don't really know like what happens with the demon. We don't know how far this thing spreads out. If it gets contained or anything. But yeah, overall, let's talk about sort of our overall ratings and everything for this film. Patrick, what'd you think?
I liked it. I thought it was very interesting. Like I said, to me, it played out as a dark fantasy, alternate world, disguised as a horror movie. It felt like an origin story. When I was sitting there looking at the brothers, I kept on thinking, my thought was, you could keep the story going. There's your two new cleaners right there. And it's like, he would have to overcome his being marked, but he could use it for himself. And Jamie had already showed knowledge of the equipment. He just felt a little bit like an origin story. Like they could continue this if they wanted to. I thought it was solid. I thought it was a really solid movie. I would give this definitely a 7.5, 7.5.
I would say Jamie had no grasp on cleaning because he was like perplexed with the fucking handle of the equipment.
Yeah.
But I think he would. I think he maybe more than Pedro. I think he would be open to it, and to learn it, to grasp it. Maybe the Pedro not so fast, but I could definitely see those two. After they come up with their grief, to turn it around and just I just didn't see the ending being there with those two just being dust in the wind. I saw them going like, yeah, they could move forward off from this. It would be difficult, but they could do it. And I definitely did not feel this was a earthbound story. Like I felt this was like on a different alternate universe, or so to speak. That's what I really liked about the movie. I really liked the idea like it was not set in here. It was definitely different. And yes, it had all the surroundings of Earth, but if you listen to the dialogue, it did not. And I thought it was more of a dark fantasy than a straight horror film for me.
I'm not sure what the difference is. I don't know where that line is drawn between dark fantasy and horror. But I'll respect your opinion. Haas, what did you think?
I think to me it's a solid 9 because I just think the way it hooks you from the beginning and just the way things move along and progressively get worse, and you can kind of see the writing on the wall, see that it's going to get worse, and it's really, to me, it's got to be straight up horror because just the situation of thinking of you're in this position of everything you're trying to do to maybe help the situation, it keeps going wrong and getting worse, and it's just there's not all stories are going to have a happy ending, and this one did not.
No.
Kind of made me think back to the first time that I saw the what's the Stephen King, I'm trying to think the name of the movie is escaping me right now.
The Mist.
The Mist. Like that. Yes, him and his brother are still alive, but what do they have to live for? I mean, it's like everything they love has been taken from them pretty much, and so it's like but still, it's just the entertainment value that was there.
Mm.
Even the awful things that happened, it was still just, I was really impressed by it.
It's a good movie. I mean, it definitely it's a corker, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm not really into the subtitles, but I like this one. I gave it 8.5. What did you give, Hoss? What'd you say? A 9?
I said a 9.
A 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty close to up there. I like it. Very action packed to the end.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I'd probably go more in the 9 range personally. I think it was well acted, well produced, story was interesting. And it got extra points for being particularly brutal in ways that you're not expecting a movie to actually go through and be that way.
And original, like,
Yeah.
it's not like you saw this before.
No,
it's like this, it's like that.
Yeah.
No, definitely a highly original thought. I mean, this is a very different, a very different film. I admired it. I mean, I thought it was really good. I just, he built he built his world. I mean, you could definitely see there's other things going on around them, and it was a lot bigger than what they were, and he told a story to reflect that. Yeah, I liked it.
All right. Well, let's wrap her up then. And
you guys probably want to know what's going to happen next month, though, right?
Yeah, what's the next one?
I'm going here. I'm going Bound to Vengeance.
Oh, okay.
Bound
to Vengeance.
That's right.
Not
so this is my answer to Haas's pick a few months ago, the Den, and I think this is a spiritual sequel to that movie. And so if you guys remember our talk on the Den, then you will really dig Bound to Vengeance.
I like the Den a lot, and I haven't heard of Bound to Vengeance, so I'll be interested to check it out.
Mm-hmm.
What's your date?
Oh, that will be on July 28th. July 28th on my channel at 8 o'clock.
Okay.
Be there, be a square.
Patrick, anything coming up for you on your channel and whatnot? Anything you want to plug?
Just another fun full week of interviews. I'm interviewing one Owen Bronson. He's a fellow YouTuber, great guy, loves action movies. Then we got a guy named Concrete Spew. He's a critic and a writer for metal music. He knows just about everything about rock and metal there is. Then I'm talking to actress Melissa. I can't say her name, so I'm going to say Penzia. And then on Friday night, I'll be interviewing a young actress from Australia named Jema, and that's about it.
Okay.
Oh, Sharks and Schlock that I'm doing with Eric from Hate Internet. It's Eric, and we start that off on Wednesday. I gave him 5 shark movies to watch. He gave me 5 schlock movies to watch, and they're all coming out on Wednesday.
Okay.
And every Wednesday for the rest of the month. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And it was good seeing Cody in the chat too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good old Cody.
Come back.
Hoss, well, actually, Mary, looks like you got Rodney Dangerfield there.
Rodney Dangerfield,
Rodney.
yeah.
No respect.
No respect. No respect.
Great.
No respect.
Hoss, what you got coming up?
Nothing really promote, but us physical media collectors, there's a lot of good sales that are going on this summer. So a lot of times it's just figuring out what you can afford to get versus what you'd like, being able to get everything you'd like to get.
Dude, Umbrella's like coming out with a bunch of shit I want to get all of a sudden.
Yes,
We got
I really want to get the 4 movie set.
Hell House.
Hell House, yeah.
Boutique ballin'.
And I saw what else did they do? I saw something else that had that I was like, oh man, all this shit I want to pre-order from
There's
them.
at least 6 or 7 different releases, I think. I've
Yeah,
seen.
there was like
Yeah,
some
that's
that,
Dollar or the thrift store.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
The Omen 2.
I've not
Budget
seen that
Dollar.
cover.
Yeah, it's all shiny.
Mm-hmm.
Which one's that one?
Mm, shoot.
Oh, you
The
didn't get that.
3D.
You didn't get that from those that box though, did you?
No.
No.
No. God.
Talk about a horror movie, right?
Yeah. You want to be potty trained.
oh,
I got that video.
but speaking,
Yeah.
just jumping back to Umbrella real quick, Intruder and Triangle are both coming out, and like they're
That's
getting
right.
I haven't seen Triangle.
Triangle's good.
Intruder.
Triangle's very good, I thought. Yeah,
Intruder is at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. I like what is it? Prey or something? I don't know. They're up in the forest. Maybe it's called Forests. I don't know. The crazy ranger.
Oh, maybe it's called Ranger. Was it
Maybe.
the one with the ranger chasing like the girl?
Yeah.
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 I'm pretty sure that's just called Ranger.
Huh. I will have to look at it.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining.
Enjoyed it.
I'm gonna wrap it up here. And until next month, we'll be back.
Celebrate.
All right.